Hello, my name's Harry, and today I'm going to talk a bit about PDA, or Pathological Demand Avoidance Syndrome. And the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because after doing some cursory research on YouTube, I noticed that there's not a lot of informative videos on this subject. And in particular, there's not a lot of videos, I haven't seen any actually, of people with PDA talking about it. Now, I'm someone in possession of a diagnosis of PDA and have been since 2011 when I was 18, and that was actually a updated diagnosis. Originally, by the same woman, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and at the time it didn't feel quite right, but it was still nice to have some recognition that I was different, and it was nice to have an explanation for why I did things the way I did and why I couldn't really conform. And then in 2011, the woman, the speech and language therapist, was speaking to one of my mentors who I was living with at the time, and they both concluded that PDA was a much more befitting diagnosis for me. And I agree. I don't really approve of or like labels very much because I find them divisive, but it was a relieving hallelujah moment for me, as in like, oh, finally, now it all makes sense. So PDA is a form of autism. It's recently become recognised as an autism spectrum disorder, and I am making this video because I believe it deserves more recognition than it's already got. So it is quite distinctive and separate from the rest of the spectrum. The main and distinguishing features are obsessively resisting the ordinary demands of everyday life, appearing sociable on the surface but lacking depth and understanding. I don't really agree with that one, but I'll expand on it in the future. Extreme comfort in role play and pretense, language delay with a great deal of catch-up, excessive mood swings and impulsivity, and obsessing over things, particularly people. So yeah, when you first meet someone with PDA, it's not always obvious. Like, they might appear as charismatic, intelligent and articulate. This isn't some narcissistic, egocentric, megalomaniacal trip here, you know. I'm not applying these descriptors to myself, that would be very conceited. But first impressions, you just think, you know, what's wrong with them? They seem creative and outgoing and spontaneous and whatever. And that's why high-functioning autism can sometimes be referred to as a hidden disability, because it really is hidden. Personally, I find the conventional definition of PDA quite ambiguous, misleading, and a bit of a misnomer. Pathological demand avoidance. People just think, oh, so you're just a bunch of kids and adults who don't like being told what to do. And yeah, that's true to some extent. We don't like being told what to do. Many of us have an innate rebellious and revolutionary streak that can't be compromised or reasoned with. But I was reading this woman's description of PDA on Facebook once, and it's one that I espouse and use frequently. And yeah, as I said, I didn't coin this, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but it's an anxiety-driven need to be in control. Instantly. It's very clear, it's very concise, and it immediately demystifies it, because it is a condition, a neurological condition that needs demystifying, and that's what I'm aiming to do. I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video because it's introductory. It's my first video, my first YouTube video, funnily enough. So excuse me if I seem crass or incompetent in any way. I just wanted to draw attention to this because not just people with PDA, but people who have obsessive tendencies, an impulsive nature, an addictive nature, may find some of my points helpful and useful, at least I hope they do. I'm going to be talking about working and school and personal relationships, romantic relationships, and little useful strategies that I use and employ that have helped me immensely. So this is something that has simultaneously plagued and blessed my life since my very inception. Like even the day I was born, I was the only child in the ward that wouldn't cry. I know that's probably a coincidence, but I just like to be fanciful and idealistic about it. I like to think that that was the first time I really defied the norm and authority. After 6 months, I wouldn't sleep because it was very difficult to quell the ever-escalating levels of stimulation within my brain. So my parents tried everything to assuage me. One moderately effective method my mother used was not holding me, but lying next to me. That worked quite well, but not well enough. So then one day they had a health visitor, I think that's what it's called in England, a person who specialises with infants to toddlers. So they brought her in and they were like, yeah, our son won't sleep. We don't know what's wrong. You know, he's giving eye contact, he's smiling, he's babbling, whatever babies at 6 months do. Everything was normal apart from the fact I wouldn't sleep, basically. And she was like, this is unacceptable. He should be sleeping by now. What you need to do is put bars on his bedroom door. So they did. And yeah, they realised what a big mistake that was. All through the night I screamed and wailed, and as an act of defiance I threw all of my toys out into the hallway, and I wouldn't stop. I eventually passed out and my parents found me upside down in my toy box the next day. And they kind of realised by that point, just their parental intuition informed them that this kid's not going to be normal. I use the term normal loosely because what is normal after all? We're all different, we're all individuals, but some of us conform better than others. I fall under the others category. And that continued, incidents like that all throughout schooling. In nursery school, one of my teachers was trying to get me to draw a picture of a goldfish, and she wasn't doing it in like a benign, cooperative way. It was very pressing, very demanding, as if she was trying to suck the action from me without consent. And I remember every time she said, draw the picture, draw the picture, draw the picture, I froze. I was literally glued to my seat. I couldn't move. All I could do was cry and call out for my mother. And when people impose a demand on me, it's not just a case of me reacting with cocky bravado, like, yeah, you're not going to tell me what to do. It's more like I'm being subdued by this malicious force that completely hijacks my personality and robs me of my sovereignty and my autonomy. It's like my body starts producing way too much adrenaline, and it courses its way up my spine and floods my prefrontal cortex. and renders me incapable of making my own decisions. So then I just become zombified, and I will do everything in my power to regain control. I'll explain more about the specifics of this reaction, this physiological reaction, in later videos, but when I feel like I've been dislodged from my comfort zone, or when my routine is disrupted, or when someone imposes their will on me, it's like an allergic reaction. I just reject it instantly, and if I'm force-fed, then that's when it can have some very unpleasant ramifications. So yeah, that's just a brief overview of my life, and obviously that continued when I started working, and it's not always instant. Like, someone could tell me to do something and I'll flinch and gasp, and I call it it's like a point system. It adds points to the trigger meter or the trigger bank or whatever, and usually by 10 is my limit, and then I just it's hard to give an example because it's always different, but I resort to crazy, outrageous, socially unacceptable antics that really shock people, because like they'll see me just acting normally, and yeah, like I'm relatively sociable, I guess. I mean, I can be quite quirky in social situations, and random, creative chaos, maybe. Anyway, I'll stop pontificating. But something will go wrong outside my control, and then my entire demeanour might change. And I suppose that fits in with excessive mood swings. And that could also be consistent with bipolar, I guess. But that's the thing. PDA is like a melting pot of ADHD, OCD, addiction, bipolar, Asperger's. It's like a melting pot of all of those things. It's fascinating to observe in other people, but it can be extremely taxing and draining to live with. And at this point in my life, I'm 24, I've more or less found a way of integrating into the world, which is an immeasurable sign of progress, because I never ever thought that I'd be able to say that I belong here on this planet. This is my planet, because I always used to look up at the stars and think I belong somewhere else, but I'm beginning to feel more at home. Sorry, it's cold. So right now I'm speaking to you from upstate New York. I've hitchhiked here from Southern California. I've lived here for 18 months. I'll probably talk more about that as well in later videos. But I've learned to stop trying to rationalize everything, because my brain is the hub of the need for control. So I try and go with my intuition, heart and instincts as much as I can. Obviously I have to reason somewhat, because I need to make sure that it's the right decision and it's not going to cause any harm to anyone or myself. So yeah, I found that following my heart has more efficacy, because if I try and work things out with my head too much, then that's when my anxiety starts increasing and I might do something for the wrong reason. Anyway, I'm digressing a bit. So yeah, my aim is to increase people's awareness of this, and yeah, maybe help where I can. I've written a book, actually. It's called Sensory Overload Robs Me of My Moral Code, and it's being edited right now. It should be out fairly soon, so I'll keep you all updated on that as that develops. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Like I said before, I hope I don't come across as naive or inept. Have a nice day. Goodbye.